Hi everybody, Kerry here at the North East Autism Society, and today I am joined by Tony and Danny from the Life Science Centre. And Danny hasn't been with us for a few weeks, so he's joined us again. So some of you may know him and some of you might not. So Danny, I'm going to ask you then, what are we doing today?
Thank you, Kerry. So some people have asked us to do videos about liquids and about water. And so that's what we're going to do. We've come up with something that investigates the effects of water and air pressure. Now, we're surrounded by air all around us. It's what we breathe, and it goes from here on the Earth at the ground level all the way up to the edge of space. And that air is pushing against us all the time. And because we grew up on Earth, we don't notice that pushing. But there are experiments you can do to show off that effect. One of those experiments involves a plastic bottle. And that's what we're going to have a go with today. Tony, I think you've got a plastic bottle too?
Yep.
All right then. So you take your plastic bottle and we're going to need to make some holes in it. It helps to use something sharp and metal. So I have a pin. Well,
I've got a sewing needle just here.
Okay, so if you're not comfortable using sharp things, ask a grown-up to help you. And the first thing we're going to do is make a hole about halfway up the height of the bottle. So keeping our hands out of the way but holding tightly, we're going to push that pin in. And I'm going to give it just a little bit of a wiggle to make the hole a tiny bit bigger. I don't know if you can see, you probably can't, but there's a tiny, tiny little hole just there.
Yeah, I can see a little hole there, Danny.
Yeah. All right, and then we're going to make a second hole that is halfway between where our first hole is and the top of the bottle. So for my bottle, it's going to be round about here. But it doesn't have to be super accurate, just roughly halfway and roughly above the first hole.
Okay, I've given it a little wiggle as well to try and make the hole a little bit bigger.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, give that one a little wiggle. And then we need to do one more hole, and this one is going to be halfway between the first hole and halfway between the bottom of the bottle. So about here.
Having to feel for where the holes are now, they're so tiny.
Oh, exactly, yeah. Some bottles are a bit nicer because they've got kind of bands around them in roughly the right places, but I don't know about your bottle, Tony, but mine is quite smooth all the way down.
Mine's very smooth.
Okay, so we've got 3 holes and wiggled the pin in all of them to make it just a little bit bigger than the pin itself.
And if you couldn't see the holes, I suppose you could put a little bit of a pen mark on, couldn't you?
Yeah, that could be a good idea when you're planning them as well. Just put a little dot or a little cross on your bottle so you know roughly where you're going to do them. So I've got 3 holes, and I'm now going to take some sellotape and tape over those holes.
Is it better to do 3 little bits of tape or 1 big piece?
I'm going to try 1 big piece,
okay,
so that when we have to take it off later, it's a little bit easier. But depending on the shape of your bottle, it might be easier to do smaller pieces. And you want to try and do your best to tuck it into all the gaps in the plastic, because a lot of plastic bottles have ridges and bumps and things like that.
If we're going to take it off later, I've made a little tab at the top to make it easier to peel off. Is that a good idea?
Exactly, yeah. I've done the same at the bottom, just a little flat of extra tape stuck down. And now we need some water. You could do it in the sink, or I think, have you got a pan of water, Tony?
Yep, just here.
Yeah. So I'm going to pour my water in, and hopefully that tape will keep it nice and sealed. And Tony, you're just submerging yours in the pan and filling it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Danny, is that just cold water?
It is, yeah, cold water from the tap.
Okay.
And I filled it all the way up to the top, and then I'm going to put the lid on tightly.
I think I might need to top it up with the jug.
Yeah, you want it to be as full as possible.
Just filled it all the way to the top so it's overflowing, and then I'm putting the lid on.
Good plan. So we've got our bottles, and in a moment we're going to take the tape off. This is a good time to act like scientists and make a prediction. So, Tony, what do you think is going to happen when we take the tape off?
Well, as the bottle's got holes in it, I'm a bit worried I might get wet, because I had a watering can that had a hole in it at the bottom, and all the water was just leaking out everywhere before I could pour it out. So I think the same might happen here.
Okay, I know. What do you think, Kerry? Do you have a prediction? Is it the same as Tony's, or do you have a different one?
My prediction's the same. I think the water might drip out, though. Might just drip.
Okay.
Out of the holes.
Okay, yeah, because it doesn't have to be just whooshing out. It could be drips, bit of a leak. Let's find out. Slowly, carefully take the tape off. There we go.
Wow.
So, what's yours doing, Tony?
Mine's got a little bit of a leak. I think it might have been that I squeezed my bottle a bit at the start when I pulled the tape off.
Mine has a tiny drip, but only from the bottom, and the rest of it, it looks pretty fine. And that's because of the air pressure we were talking about before. So all around us, there's air. There's lots of air outside the bottle, but there's only a teeny tiny bit of air inside because we filled it up as high as we could. So that means there's a greater air pressure outside and a smaller air pressure inside. And air moves from where there's a lot of pressure to where there's not a lot of pressure. So air is trying to move in to the bottle, but because it's full of water and it's sealed tightly, it can't get in. And so even though there's holes in the bottle, the water doesn't come out.
That's like magic, Danny.
It's pretty cool, isn't it? It's one of those things where it's a bit of a surprise on what you think's going to happen.
Yeah, because I predicted that the water would come out, because usually if there's a hole in something, the water would go through it. Exactly.
So it goes against what we kind of see every day.
I guess then mine possibly leaked a bit because I gave it that extra squeeze. I pushed the water out through the holes.
Yeah, so maybe some air got in and the pressure wasn't quite right.
Yeah, there's definitely some air in the top now.
We've got lids on our bottles. Do you think taking the lid off would have an effect?
I guess if we're thinking about the air pressure, the air above our heads in the room will be able to get in and put pressure on the water from the top if we took the lid off. So
should we try?
I think the water might come out even faster.
All right. Okay. Let's have a look then and see what happens.
I agree.
Try it.
Should we do it together? 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Mine's shooting out here and here.
I don't know how visible it is, but
yeah, I can see that, Danny, and Tony's, that the water's coming out. Yeah, so you need to do this activity somewhere safe, don't you? Because you might get very wet. And
exactly.
You don't want to,
I've got a sink just here.
That's good.
And you've got a tray, Tony.
And I've got a paddling pool on the floor of my living room.
Well, I guess you could do it outside, or you could do it in the bath, anywhere.
Danny, what was happening there is, am I right in thinking the pressure was pushing down, like Tony was saying, and it was pushing the water out, so the pressure comes down on the water.
Exactly, yeah. So once you took the lid off, there was a big gap in the top of the bottle where air can get in. So now it starts going in from the top to balance out that pressure. And as it's going in, the water starts leaking out again because the forces are getting kind of more balanced.
So what would happen if you put the lid back on?
Let's find out. And it's stopped squirting out again.
Yeah, mine's just dripping a tiny bit. It's not squirting like it did before.
Yeah.
One thing I did notice when the lid was off is that the hole at the bottom seemed to squirt more than the one at the top. So.
Oh, shall we? A lot of water's come out of mine now, so should we have another go and see if we can see that happen again?
Yeah, I'm gonna fill it up again.
Yeah, let's fill them up. Now you might want to cover the holes again with tape, or you might just want to use your fingers to stop it coming out this second time as you fill it. But if you do very fast and you get the lid on quickly, it should be okay. Not much should leak out. Okay. Is yours filled up again, Tony?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm going to take the lid off and we'll look closely at how fast and how far the water squirts out of each hole.
Mine's the
So
same.
Danny, yeah, it looks like there's more water at the bottom, isn't it?
Yeah, so my top one is going pretty much straight down. It's quite a steep angle. The middle one is curving quite nicely and stops about here. And then the bottom one is going really far and actually shooting out of the shot.
My bottom one comes all the way out to here. The next one only comes to here. And the top one only goes this far.
Ah, so this is another kind of pressure, but this one isn't air pressure, it's water pressure. So I'm going to put the lid back on to make it a little bit less messy. The hole at the top has only got a small amount of water above it. So the pressure is, there's pressure, but there's not a lot of pressure. So it squirts out a little bit. By the time we get to the middle hole, we've got half a bottle full of water. So that's twice the height, and so the pressure is greater, so it squirts more. And then by the time we get to the bottom hole, we've got almost a whole bottle of water, so it's even taller again, and so the pressure is even greater, and it squirts really far.
So I think it would be good, Danny and Tony, if we got some of our young people to try that experiment at home and see what happens to their bottles in the water.
Definitely. Try it out with your own bottles, see if you can get the same effects as we do. And then maybe you could explain to the people you're with why that's happening. Make your own predictions before you do each step as well.
Definitely. And I think if people do that, if they're watching this video, we would love to see some pictures and videos of that as well, and your different predictions that you came up with. So thank you so much, Tony and Danny, for sharing that experiment with us. That was really interesting. And we'll see you very soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.